Please join me in prayer. Together we come to celebrate the masculine divine and come in the deep and abiding gratitude for co-creation with the one life that is God, the perfect life that permeates all creation. We are grateful for everyone who makes this service possible. We are grateful for our musician, for our sound team, for our practitioner, for our ushers, for our Reverend Jenn, through whom Spirit speaks loud and clear to deliver a message that everyone within the sound of my voice needs to hear today. We are grateful for all who celebrate the one life that is God, wherever they celebrate, whether it's in the forest, on a mountaintop, in a mosque, at the cathedral, a sweat lodge, or in their living rooms. We know that embracing self-care is a divine charge that comes from God. And through self-care, we are able to care for one another. Through self-care, we experience pleasure, all of the gifts that the divine intends for us, as it has made each and every one of us out of its own self, out in its own image. And we know that all is well, all is good, and all is God. I give thanks for every magnificent soul in this building, for all who listen online, for everyone everywhere in the world as unique and divine expressions of the one life that is God. I give thanks. I release these words in the divine law where they're acted upon, already done in the mind of God. I let this go, I let it be. Together we affirm. And so it is. The first of our words of inspiration come from Orson Swett Marden. The great aim of our lives should be to make every occasion an opportunity for achievement. Conserve your energies and guard your health. Only if you take care of yourself can you take care of others. From Mary Carlo Mango. Identify those times in your life that are rooted in experience rather than objects. Begin to think of your possessions in this context, noting if your emotional buying might be delaying your innate ability to experience the memorable moments. Make a concerted effort to amass experiences rather than collectibles. From our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes. The great love which I now feel for the world is the love of God. And it is felt by all and come back to me from all. I understand all people, and this understanding is reflected back to me. I give friendship, therefore I have friends. I help, therefore I am helped. I uplift, therefore I am uplifted. I am now surrounded by all love, all friendship, all companionship, all health, all happiness, and all success. I am one with life. I wait in the silence while the Great Spirit bears this message to the world.
I don't hear a lot of people talking about joy, happiness, and pleasure so much these days. I think we get caught up in all of the conditions of what's going on out there, and it just trips us up. It causes us to, sometimes it causes us to just kind of be disgruntled, but sometimes it causes us to think that maybe we don't have the right to feel joy. Maybe we don't have the right to have fun, to be happy. And those mindsets are just not the truth. The truth is we have every right. It is our inherent nature to embrace the good, to have the good, and to enjoy it. What we've discovered is that when we take time to love the self, to really take care of me first. I said me first, didn't I? Use that in the context of which I spoke it. When I take that time, I can feel better about where I'm coming from. I can feel better about what I'm doing. I can feel better about how I am interacting with others because I've got myself grounded and centered and aligned just exactly as I need to. When we take those moments to rest, to maybe read a book, to take a walk, to possibly just go into meditation, all those wonderful things that we're taught to do that help take care of us, we feel better afterwards. Let me give you a comparison. Think of the last time you ate something that you shouldn't have. You ate something that was fattening or that maybe was more calories than you normally like to give yourself, or whatever regimen is going on in your brain. You sat down and you had some of whatever it is, and you knew all along you shouldn't. You were scolding yourself as you did it, and when you got done, how did you feel? Most of us start to complain and tell everyone about how horrible we were and how horribly we treated our bodies. Oh my gosh, how about we stop it? First of all, if you're going to eat it, bless it and eat it. Yeah. If you've gotten that far, just go for it. But that negativity, that negative mindset, and again, we're trying to reel ourselves in, and we're keeping ourselves from that beautiful expression of who we are. So one of the things that I realized as putting this talk together today is that the idea of pleasure isn't necessarily something we teach in the spiritual realm. Pleasure is something that usually happens to us. It's a feeling or an expression we have based on something given to us or done to us or that we've taken care of ourselves. So it's almost an outside the body kind of a process. And so the fact that we're always talking about going within and going within and going within, I found it really curious that we've chosen this particular talk today to go, okay, well, let's look at all the things that bring us pleasure. And that's what we want to do this week. We want to look at those things. And oh my gosh, guess what happened today? The sun is out. It's hot out there. I didn't see clouds. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but I don't know what the chances of rain are for today, but in Colorado, where we don't do rain, we are ready for a hot, sunny day. So this is wonderful. That makes me feel pleasure to be out in this climate and to feel this. So when we exercise, we take a walk, we eat good foods, we get plenty of sleep, we do all of the wonderful things that we know the physical being needs, and we do the wonderful things that we know the spiritual being needs, the soul, the spirit. We give it what it needs to be fed. When we do all those things, we can feel good about ourselves and who we are and how we are. So Ernest Holmes, our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, said, if it is God's pleasure to give us the kingdom, then it should be our privilege to accept the gift. How many of us are refusing to accept the gift? Have you ever turned away thinking, oh, no, that looked really good, but I know that wasn't really for me. I'm sure that was happening for somebody else. When we take that time, again, to just honor ourselves and who we are, we can step into that rich relationship with self. And what that does for us, that means that everything we show up for, every time we tune in to something else, we know where we're coming from. And when I'm grounded, I know who I am, I know what I'm about, I know what's going on. And then when someone comes to me who's not in that same space and tries to, needs help or support or tries to pressure me about something, that doesn't happen anymore because I'm strong and grounded and centered, and I know that whatever is going on with this other individual might have more to do with them than it does with me. Because that's one of those wonderful things I call a violation of self-care, is when you're talking to another person and they're dumping on you and they're making it your stuff, and you walk away and you start carrying that. That's a huge detriment to us. So we want to be in that place of being aligned and acknowledging who we are and that we are children of God. We want to remember that we have limitless possibilities to how to live our lives. And we have the key to unlock these by being our true beingness. And the world has confused us a lot. It's given us all kinds of mixed messages. The world has told us that we need to be doing something 24/7, doing something. We have a task list on a daily basis, and we're checking things off, and we're in this mode. And I spoke with someone this past week who was talking about the fact that they just aren't really sure what they're supposed to be doing right now, because they've reached that point in life where they're at the later years, and it just feels like there's something they're supposed to do still, and they don't know what it is. And my question was, well, maybe that's not it. Maybe you're just supposed to be. And there was kind of like this intake of breath when we recognized, oh, yeah, I did say do, didn't I? I meant be. Yeah, maybe I can just be. When we just get up every day and we live in the moment, we are living in that place of joy, absolute joy and pleasure. If you practice self-care, now let me talk about what practice means, because some of you might have missed it. Practicing self-care means that there's something that you're doing every single day to attend to the needs of you. Every single day. Not every 7 or 8 days, not once a month, I go get a massage, that's my self-care. No, I mean, that's a piece of it, but that's not all of it. So when you step into the simple act of caring for yourself, and you don't feel pleasure, you're doing it wrong. I'm sorry. Back it up, do it again. Because that's what you should feel, is that sense of well-being and gratification for taking care of self. When we take care of someone else who really needs our help and support, and we wipe their tears and we hold them and we hug them and we listen and we do whatever we need to do, they feel better with that interaction. So why wouldn't we want to create that same type of process with ourselves? Rupai Kaur says, loneliness is an indicator that you need yourself desperately. Desperately. If you're feeling alone, lonely, isolated, separated, chances are good the being that you're seeking to give you support is you. We see this with others so often. And maybe some of us see it within ourselves, where we go out there and we kind of overexpend. But let me talk about this for a second. You meet someone who's carrying the world on their shoulders. And they're creating this project, and they're creating that project, and they're doing this, and they're doing that, and they're taking care of this family member, and they're taking care of that family member. And they're just in this constant action of do, go, and helping all these other people. And we get gratification from that, so it's easy to do that. It's very simple to step into that role because it feels good when we help others, when we've become the hero for a second or a minute or a day. It feels good, so it's misleading to us. But what we want to pay attention to is that then we have these individuals, these wonderful, beautiful beings who are so creative and are doing all these things, and then all of a sudden they disappear for a couple weeks or a day. Or you can't reach them on the phone for a couple weeks because chances are they've melted down a little bit, they've exhausted themselves, and now they're trying to recover. Wouldn't it be great, and I've talked about this balance thing for the last couple of weeks, wouldn't it be great if we could take this balance thing and we could just keep that going throughout our life, this constant ribbon of balance, so we're not overexerting, and we're not ignoring, and we're not, getting no sleep, and we're not, we can move away from all of that because now we're taking time for this, and time for this, and time for this, and time for this. I think one of the positive pieces of the pandemic, and there are so many, but I'm not going to go into them today because we're just tired of hearing about it. But anyway, I think one of the positive pieces of the pandemic was it gave us an opportunity to be in solitude to some degree, for some of us to a great degree, and to really get a handle on balancing our lives, because we didn't have all the outside pressures that we have on a regular basis, at least not for a period of time. And some of us still had work and went to a job and those types of things, but things were a lot more buffered for that period of time. And I think we were being offered some really great lessons to learn, and I think balance is one of them. And I kind of did it for a while, and then I kind of didn't, and then I did, and I didn't, and don't follow my lead, because that's not balance. That's probably some personality disorder. No, I'm kidding. So we can look at this from two sides, because I want to talk about this because we know these individuals that are just the intense worker bees. We can look at this from both sides. We can look at this from the point of, what am I doing to impose on this person that makes them think they have to do all this stuff for me, or all this stuff, or that I'm directing people to them, and I pretty much don't do that so much, but to look at it from that responsible, accountable role is, am I creating this? Am I allowing this person to overextend themselves? And then as the person who's possibly overextending, how many times do you need to crash and burn? How many times do you need to go to that place where you just aren't functioning anymore and you've just got to check out? And I did this for years, back in my 30s, 20s and 30s. I mean, it was go for the gusto and then crash and burn, and then go, and it took me a while, because I thought that's how I was supposed to be doing. First of all, because I was a woman. I'm still a woman, but because I was a woman, and because I was a daughter and a mother, and I worked in management, so I thought that all of those hats that I wore were saying that I had to do all these things, that I didn't get to take time for me. I didn't really need to pace myself. And now, at this age, I'm learning that pacing myself is so much more critical than I ever thought it would be. So what pleasure is a feeling of contentment. It's a deep emotion, and it's because of an event, usually, that builds positive feelings, and it's often considered the opposite of grief and sadness. And we talked about this a little bit last week also. So a wave of calmness washes over the body. It keeps the body and the mind in a peaceful state. Have you felt peace lately? Have you experienced it? Have you been able to share it and express it? Pleasure is imperative in every self-care process because it is summarized in the feeling of self-care. Every self-care activity is designed to improve your emotions and your feelings about you. And this is important. And for all of those wonderful people who've been in your lives in the past who told you it wasn't important to focus on you, I'm sorry, Stop listening to those voices. When I remember being a pretty young child, pretty young person, and at the church of my parents where we attended, I remember the minister standing up one day, and we heard this in Bible school a lot too, about the levels of what we're supposed to do, what you're supposed to be paying attention to. And the thing at the top of the list, the most important thing that you ever were supposed to pay attention to is God. First, God first. And the second thing was everybody else. And then the third thing was this, and the fourth thing was this, and I think I was down at number 7 before it finally got to the point where I could focus on me. And if you had that teaching growing up, you got to flip that sucker around because you've been given some misinformation and you've been putting yourself last. And we just don't get to do that anymore. I got a text message from someone yesterday I haven't spoken to in a short time, a little while. And just in the text message where this individual was catching me up on all the things that have been happening, I became exhausted enough that I had to put the phone down and I had to go do something else for a couple of minutes, and I came back later and I thought, I never finished reading that text. And I picked it back up and I thought, and I see why. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, this is your life? This is what you're doing? Take a break. You're exhausting me. And we can do this. We can do this and we can get to this place of balance and peacefulness and gracefulness, taking care of ourselves. Dr. Holmes says, anyone wishing to develop a pleasant personality must first become pleasant and thinking comforting thoughts. I really liked this because I thought, well, if you're out there seeking pleasure and you're not particularly a pleasant person, meaning that you haven't been taught how to be pleasant, you're not going to get it. It's not going to work out. So first we have to be pleasant-natured. And I wanted to bring this up because it's not just pleasant-natured from time to time. It is that I always need to come forth with that interest, that pleasant mindset, that compassion, that empathy, that willingness to consider that maybe I misunderstood you, that willingness that says maybe what just transpired between us nobody was really wrong, we just kind of hit a bump and misunderstood and misconveyed, and one of us wasn't listening, or both of us weren't listening, or we had an expectation, whatever, but to go into that place and consider the person that you were interacting with and what that was really about. I used to teach this in corporate America a lot. When you get an email and it sounds mean and ugly, take a moment, take a breath, consider who the email came from and what do you know about that person. Because maybe they didn't mean it to be critical or derogatory. And we've all done this. We've all done this. You read an email, and now you're firing up. You're ready to charge off and send an email back. I know. I've practiced this very well myself. And so sometimes it's as simple as remembering the heart of the person that we're interacting with, remembering who they are, and then knowing that, well, maybe I misread it. Because the only way I can read an email, this might be a shock to you, but the only way I can read an email is from my perspective. My experience, my filter systems, my growing up, my energies, my mindset, my mood at the moment, which is a scary one. That's the only way I can read an email. And I apologize to you if you need me to read them a different way, but that's the only way I can. And if we can accept that and embrace that and turn to this being pleasant to self and one another, I think we can master a whole lot of the challenges that are going on in the world. In order for you to experience the benefits of pleasure, rule number 1, you get to be pleasant. It's almost feels like a catch-22, especially for the individual who's somewhat disgruntled, the person who finds fault in everything. The person who is critical, judgmental, and finds fault in things, the person who has had harm done to them in the past, and they just haven't got to that place of getting it all healed yet. They're still struggling. They're still working. They're still a work in progress. They're still trying to get there. That individual is going to have a tough time getting to that place Doesn't mean we're going to disregard them. It doesn't mean we're going to shut them out. We're going to hold them and support them as much as we can. And once we are able to master that entire concept, then joy is ours. Happiness is ours. Unconditional love. All those wonderful, beautiful things that we've been promised are here for us. Lao Tzu gives us this wonderful quote. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Whenever I'm looking to a future date for something, whenever I'm planning to do something, something's coming up, it's so easy to get focused on the future movement, the momentum of where I'm headed, and forget about what's happening right here and right now. And I have to reel myself in from time to time. I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes I just have to stop and go, okay, what do I need right this minute? Right this minute, right now, what do I need? And every single time I ask that question and I take that into reflection, the answer is, I already have all that I need. Now, I might need something for something I'm going to do next Tuesday. I might need something for, maybe I didn't go to the grocery store the other day because, I just didn't want to. And I might need a couple of grocery items. I can project and think about that. But that doesn't have to get in the way of where I am in the moment and in the knowing that I'm fully supported by divine and universal wisdom. So there was this man who had 4 sons. And he wanted to teach them how not to be judgmental. And he wasn't quite sure how to go about this, and then he came up with an idea. And so he told each one of his sons that they were going to go on a journey, and they were going to look at a pear tree that was a great distance from where they lived. But they could not go together. So one son went in the spring, one went in the winter, one traveled to the tree in the summer, and one traveled in the fall. Once they had all done this and taken time to really connect with this beautiful tree, this item that their father wanted them to take a look at and assess and really pay attention to, once this was all complete, he called them all together and he said, okay, let's talk about it. He said, I want to know what you thought. And the first son said, well, he traveled in the winter. He said the tree was ugly, it was bent, and it was twisted. And the second son said, oh, no. It was covered with green buds, and it really looked beautiful. And the third son said, no. It was laden with blossoms, and it smelled so incredibly sweet, I wanted to stay there. And the fourth son also disagreed with the others and said, no, it was ripe and heavy laden with fruit, full of life and fulfillment. And the man said to his sons, you're all right. You're all correct. Because they had only seen one season of the tree's life. He told them that you cannot judge a tree or a person by only one season. And that the essence of who they are, the pure pleasure, joy, love, that comes to them from their lives, can only be measured till the end. How often are we caught up in judgment of someone or something, and we've only just tapped into a minute of it? We've only just checked in for a season, a chapter, you might call it that. We didn't wait it out. We didn't see where it all started from. We're not watching where it's going to, and we made a decision. The Father said, if you give up when it's winter, you'll miss the promise of your spring, the beauty of your summer, the fulfillment of your fall. Don't let the pain of one season destroy the joy for the rest. So this week, as we turn our attention to that idea of pleasure, let's take some time and evaluate the people we interact with and the things that we are doing in our lives and what's bringing us joy and what's not. And are we caught up in a segment of time that doesn't tell the whole story? It's just a snippet. It's just a little piece of information, and we've decided that this is it. And let's take some time to just mindfully evaluate that and see what it really means to us and what we can do about it. Sharon Draper said, "Perfect happiness is a beautiful sunset, the giggle of a grandchild, the first snowfall. It's the little things that make happy moments, not the grand events. Joy comes in sips, not gulps." Small, bite-sized pieces. How beautiful is that? My father was a treasure hunter. So was my mother. They always knew that they were going to find a treasure somewhere. And we had this wonderful practice when I was a kid. My dad would throw us all in the car on a Sunday afternoon, and we'd drive all over the city of Colorado Springs. And every time my brother or I saw a pop bottle, we'd shout, Dad, pull over the car. We'd jump out, grab the pop bottle, put it in the car. We were rich. We were creating money in our lives. And my dad just thought that was the greatest thing on the planet. He almost got hit by a car years ago in the 70s because he got out of his van, his work van, to dig a penny out of the tar in the street at Bijou and Union, which are two streets in Colorado Springs. And when he came home, he was so darn proud of that penny. And I just remember looking at him and thinking, and this is my dad, wow. There's this thing, it doesn't exist anymore. Some of you, in the group in the room pretty much are gonna know this. Some of you online, it's difficult to say, but it's this thing, it's called a payphone. And you used to be able to walk down the street and you could stop at this device and put money in it and you could call people. And it was so convenient because they were like everywhere. I mean, there were some places in town where you could drive up to one and just lean out your car and make the phone call at the little phone booth thing. My father would not walk past a payphone without flipping the coin return and checking for money. Every single time. We lost him a couple times in Miami one time because we're up here walking and all of a sudden we're looking around and Dad's way back there checking payphones. It's like, oh my gosh. And then in the last, 10, 12 years of his life, he got into the habit of checking out car washes because he discovered there was a treasure at the car wash. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but he was looking for the treasure in the vacuumed out stuff that people vacuumed out of their vehicles. And what the car wash guys did sometimes in some places in Colorado Springs, and Dad knew where everyone was, they would take those big bins and they dump it out in the dirt so that the water would wash through the dirt and get all the gunk out, and my dad would find treasures. I mean, toys. My kids were given these toys that he found in the junk at car wash. It was just interesting. It was just interesting. He came home one day with $7 in quarters that someone had put up on top of the gizmo where you go get the change and then you put your quarters up here and you're popping them in as you're washing your car. I'm sure there's still car washes like that out there. And someone had driven off and left all their change up there. You would have thought he and my mom had $1 million. I mean, I come in the door, my mom's shrieking, she's excited, she wants me to listen to what my dad found that day. It's like, oh my gosh. It brought him pleasure. It brought them both pleasure to find something unexpected of value to them every time they left the house. How beautiful is that? Today and this week, discover what brings you pleasure Don't listen to the teenage daughters or the other people in the world who are telling you you're crazy. No, I'm sorry, not that word. Who are questioning your, questioning your sanity. Do it for you. Do it for you. I would give anything to have my dad here today. I would drive him to every single car wash he wanted to go to, and we would dig for treasure. We'd probably wear gloves, but it's hard to say. It's difficult to say. So if you can't think of anything else, if everything else is escaping you when it comes to the idea of pleasure, remember that Confucius says, music produces a kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without. So if all else is failing you, turn it up, crank it up, play the music, sing, dance if you choose, and let the music move you and allow that beautiful essence and that pleasure to come into your being with the music. So my question for each of you for this next week is, what's your pleasure? Please pray with me. Today and every day we are so blessed by God. We live in the light and the beauty and the presence and the energy of Spirit Divine. What we know is right here and right now. Life is good. Life is perfect. And that we are a part of this wonderful, intricate design created to have all the best, all the joy, all the love, all the pleasure that we desire. And so as we look at all of this today, we know that God is here. Spirit is beating within our hearts. God is in our breath, breathing us as we breathe Spirit. That connection, that unification that we have with God and with one another is so beautiful, so intricate, so perfect, that we know in all of life we are never alone. We are never alone. And so this week, as we learn to be ourselves' best company, as we learn to take care of self, as we learn to pay more attention to self-care and balancing out all of the activities of life and the peace and the calm as well, as we do all of this, we find beautiful, beautiful, incredible moments of sheer, pure pleasure. How beautiful that is. And so today we give thanks for that. We bless all people everywhere, knowing that all people are of God and that all people can accept and embrace this very, very action and activity as well. And so I know that life is good and it's perfect. And I give thanks for the very privilege to speak these words into universal wisdom. And I give thanks for the amazing people that are here in the New Dawn community today and all of the incredible people who are watching this video online throughout the week. And everyone, because everyone is of God and has that beautiful, beautiful essence within them. Let us love them. Let us support them. Let us embrace them. And as we simply turn our attention to letting this go, we know that it has already been heard and responded to in the mind of God. So we let it go, we let it be, and together we say, and so it is.
And so I sing a song of joy.
Hello. I'm Reverend Jenn Wilde, Senior Minister for New Dawn Center for Spiritual Living. New Dawn Center is a global community, and we welcome all people, all paths, all ways of thinking, all philosophies. So know that you are welcome here, and thank you for joining our online community.